with this new feature, what it does is it allows content creators to essentially add their own ad slots into their video content to where you are going to be able to, for your own products or for brand deals, to where you can insert ads into your videos at whatever point it is that you choose. And then you can change those ads out. So let's say, for example, in Dusty's case, let's say that he starts a new podcast. Then what he can do once this feature is out is he can go into his archive of already made podcasts that are already on YouTube that are still getting views. And he can insert a message letting everybody know in all of those videos as they're interacting with him that he just launched this new podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. We have a very special hour-and-a-half long episode today where I chat and sit down with Dee and Nick Nimmin. We do this every year. We talk about the state of YouTube. It's one of the most downloaded shows we do each and every year. So sit back, and I think you're really going to enjoy this one. A couple of things before we get going. Don't forget to check out all of the things that we offer creators, everything from one-on-one creator coaching, a mastermind group with mastermind calls, as well as YouTube channel reviews and audits. Everything down below is linked where you can find where you can get in touch with us. We don't have any advertisers throughout the show. We're just going to be telling you about the things that we offer you, the creator. Also, we do these every Friday. I interview a content creator, influencer every Friday, and I chat with them about the ups and downs of being on their platform. I talk with them about strategies that they've put in place and everything in between. So if you're looking for a place to make you better, not only as a creator, but as an entrepreneur and a business person, this is definitely the show for you. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Creators Hub podcast. I'm joined today by my good friends, Nick and Dee Nimmin. Nick Nimmin is one of the top YouTube experts out there. You can find him on his YouTube channel, Nick Nimmin, N-I-N. But if you're listening to this podcast for a couple of episodes, you probably already know who Nick is. His brother is amazing, Dee Nimmin. You can find him over on his YouTube channel. It's just at Dee Nimmin. They both help creators grow, and they've helped thousands of creators over the past decade plus. These guys are not just knowledgeable at what we're going to be talking about today. They're funny, they're good friends, they're compassionate, and they're just all in all good human beings. And we've been doing this now since 2019. And I'm super excited to have them back on for our State of YouTube conversation that we have done now since episode, I believe I was looking at pre-show. Let's see, episode 192. And we're approaching the 500 milestone. So we've been doing this for a while now. Dee, Nick, how are you fellas doing?
Fantastic, Dusty. Really excited to be here again, another year talking about the future of YouTube.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for bringing us on. And I have to say, Dusty's intros bringing us on are the best out there. Like everywhere I go, I want to bring Dusty in to just introduce me as I come into the room.
I may not have many talents, but Ultimate Hype Man can be one of them on my resume. You know, guys, we were talking off air. YouTube is evolving every year, but I feel like the speed at which it's changing, and there were years back in 2020 and 2021 where we'd have this conversation and we were so desperate for creator tools and changes and things that we wanted. But I feel like in the past couple of years, YouTube has really done a good job of upping the cadence at which they release new features. Nick, would you agree with this?
I would agree with that. And in this year alone, they've released more new features than, well, they've announced more new features than they ever have in the past. And they've already rolled out some of those features, and there's a lot more to come towards the end of this year and, of course, early next year as they are continuing to roll these out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that as a creator, I've said this before, but I feel like it's never been a better time to be on the platform. I think that, you know, when we'll get to talk about live streaming here later on in the show. You know, used to the top dog was Twitch and these other streaming platforms. I believe YouTube is really closing the gap. I'm not sure if they're there yet, but I believe that they're closing the gap. We'll talk about vertical video, short form content. I feel like they continue to improve that, the way the algorithm handles them. We've talked about that before, but D, I feel like in this moment right now, going into 2026, where everyone is afraid of, what is artificial intelligence going to do? And we'll talk about that later, but I feel like it's just such a great time to be a creator.
I know we say this every year. Every time we have this conversation, the same thing comes up. And I'm going to say it again this year because the same thing holds true, regardless of what you think is happening on a platform, regardless of what you think is happening with AI. There's never been a better time to start making videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
2026, there's never been a better time. No, you're not late. Get started if you haven't recorded your first video yet.
Yeah. Oftentimes I say this, but I've interviewed now over 425 creators for this show. And one of the cool thing about AI is that I can put all of my podcast transcripts into artificial intelligence and I can get some really great data. And so I've done that. And one of the most common answers from creators when I ask the question, what do you wish you would have known sooner? What's one piece of advice that you would give other people? And the common answer is always just start. I wish I would have started sooner. So definitely agree with what D is saying there. All right, we have a list of things that we are going to cover as far as topics this year, and I'm sure there will be some long-winded conversations in there. So sit back, pop your AirPods in, go on that long walk, go on your commute, whatever it may be, because we got a lot of good stuff coming for you here in the next hour or so. So let's talk with how people view content on YouTube nowadays, Nick. We talked about the data point coming out that more people are watching YouTube on their televisions, these big 65-inch, monitors, than mobile. What is that telling us, Nick? What does that mean?
Yeah, so when it comes to TVs right now, YouTube has recently passed mobile on watch time. So it's not necessarily that more people are watching on a TV, it's that more watch time is being collected on TVs than it is on mobile devices. And the reason for that is because, one, YouTube has done a really big push on getting their apps into all these smart TVs and things like that. They also did a program, I believe it was last year, where they made some deals with the NFL, and that brought in a bunch of TV viewership as well. And it just got people more used to watching YouTube on TV, which is great. And as a part of that, more opportunities are coming from creators, and there's more things that we have to think about as creators as well. So, for example, in the past, somebody might have made videos that just got a little bit of TV viewership, and because of that, they didn't really, they kind of used TV as an afterthought. But now, because YouTube needs inventory for TV, now's a great opportunity to make those longer videos, to put more effort into the videos. If you've been shooting in 1080p, maybe it's time to upscale your videos so you can create that better quality experience on TVs. And just when you are making your content also, just considering the TV viewership because it's continuing to increase. So of course, we need to make sure that things are optimized for people on mobile devices and computers as well, but TV is no longer an afterthought. We need to make sure that little details, let's say, for example, that you're mentioning a link in a video. In that particular case, you might want to have a QR code show up on the screen that somebody can scan, because somebody that's watching on a TV is very likely to also have their cell phone sitting next to them as well. So, because of that, making sure that you are just considering those types of flows around your content. Another thing is it's hard to get to video descriptions on a TV as well. And just everything on a TV is different. So what I encourage you to do is open up your TV if you haven't done this yet. Go to your own YouTube channel, watch your own videos. If you do have any types of calls to action in your videos, try to navigate those calls to action on a TV, and you're going to see how challenging some of that can be. And in some cases, it might even be impossible for a viewer to be able to take the action that you're requesting. So because of that, go and experience your content on a TV so that you can, just kind of go through that experience and see how you might need to start changing things.
Yeah. My youngest daughter, Millie, was in the bedroom with me the other day, and I did just that. I pulled up one of my interviews, and she was like, "Whoa, Daddy, your face is big," because she saw me on the big TV. And so I was trying to figure out how, I'm changing some things in my studio, and I got some new lighting stuff that is not here yet as you're watching this episode, but I've got some new things that I'm trying to do, and I'm having to move studio rooms because obviously the babies are coming. So I completely agree, Nick. I think that we have to understand that optimization now is not strictly for those little devices in our pocket. People are viewing YouTube as their main TV, right? They're watching things now. I know for me, I have a treadmill in my bedroom, and so I'll hop on the treadmill, get my walk or run in, pop up, a video, a Nimmin video on my big 65.
Right.
and just watch him in all of his glory. D, what are you telling creators when you're coaching new creators? Are we changing kind of how we are talking to them about how they should be structuring their channel and things of that nature?
I'm telling them to watch all my videos to see all my glory while they walk on the treadmill, as you do. Well, something that I think people need to think about, and Nick touched on this in terms of, think about maybe a QR code. But first, I want to say that YouTube is allowing us to create larger thumbnails so they can display on TV. So you're going to be able to upload 4K thumbnails. So that's pretty impressive. So you might have to rethink what you're doing with thumbnails. But I would say, think about what a viewer is doing when they're watching TV. If you have the type of content that's bingeable or something that is, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes long, I would really test different types of things that you're doing on TV, because people sit down and they're eating, they're watching. Just think of it like Netflix, right? They sit down and they watch a Netflix show. Maybe if they're not finished eating, they're going to watch another show. So if you're making the type of content, like 3-minute videos, are people really watching 3-minute videos on a TV? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But I know when I sit down to watch TV, I'm looking for something that's 20 minutes long, 30 minutes long, 45 minutes long. So I think that's why we're seeing a huge increase in longer videos on the platform, because as TV viewership increases, it makes more sense to make longer videos. So people will sit down and watch a longer video. And I would also experiment with your editing style. If you have, well, first of all, look at your data. And if you see a lot of your viewership is on TV and you have really fast editing, I would test slowing that down a little bit. I think moving forward, if you see like a large viewership of TV coming in, start experimenting with how you're shooting, how you're editing, how you're presenting your video, and try to make it more appealable to somebody who might be sitting down with their family or sitting down eating and trying to binge videos. Make it easy for them to watch one video and binge another one. That's what I would do moving forward with TV viewership. And I think it's incredible that it has taken over mobile viewership. I didn't think that was going to happen, but it did.
Yeah. The TV viewing is impressive to me, and it's easy to look at your own consumption. And I know I love to pop on an Outdoor Boys video on my TV, while I eat my lunch or whatever it may be. And realistically, this is a threat to regular streaming, right? Regular streaming, when I say that, HBO, Netflix. I mean, YouTube is now approaching, and think about this, Netflix and Disney Plus, they're having to pay millions of dollars for their content. YouTube is not. They have creators that are doing this every day, every hour of the day. And I think that YouTube has a huge advantage there, where we see that this viewing on these big screens is improving because the content is improving and it's becoming more, like you said, tailored for that. And having these long form videos that play well for it is just amazing. So I completely agree with that sentiment.
And with that said, also, Dusty, if you don't mind, another thing just to consider is, depending on the type of content that you make, like Dee mentioned earlier, it's important to look in your stats and see what's currently happening and where people are currently watching your videos from. You can see this inside of your analytics. And it's also important to remember, because it's easy to jump on the hype train when it comes to things like this and be like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to switch and start making everything for TVs. And that might be the play depending on your content, but it's also important to just remember, like, okay, what is it I'm trying to do here? And is, designing everything for a TV going to be a good fit to also let me, provide the value that I'm trying to provide through my content? Because, just because something is doing better doesn't mean that it's always appropriate for 100% of content creators. So because of that, just think how it applies to you, the value that you're trying to offer, how you're offering it, and see if it's, appropriate for what you're trying to do.
Yep.
But
yeah,
huge
like this show,
though. With that said, huge opportunity. Yeah.
This show and this podcast, I want to look at TV viewing because of the long form formatting of the show. But for my normal channel, which is just tutorial videos on technology, the majority of people use my content as a second screen. And so they're on their computer or they're on their device trying to learn how to do something with their technology. And so for me, I'm not necessarily trying to optimize for TV viewing with my channel, but if you're a vlog style channel or you are an entertainment style channel or a news-based channel, absolutely, you better be knowing what looks good. And that's why we used to tell people, Nick, I remember us having conversations just like this on this show about mobile 4 or 5 years ago. Are you looking at how your channel looks on the 6.9-inch iPhone or Android devices or tablets? Because this is where it was going then. And so just knowing and being cognizant of where people are watching your stuff is extremely critical. All right, so now we're just going to talk about I labeled this segment New Creator Features, and I want us to kind of break them down and discuss them. So let's go. We can kind of bounce back and forth between the two of you guys, but we got stuff like A/B testing of titles now. We have more accessible analytics. We have live streaming changes, which probably need to be discussed all on their own. Podcasting has never been a better time to be a podcaster on YouTube. I've talked to you guys about this off air. I'm doing it with this show and my other shows that are coming out next year. Video viewing of podcasts is just going through the roof. Spotify has data for this. YouTube has data for this. So podcasters, get on the train because YouTube is coming. AI product tagging, fluid ad insertions within videos that you can go back later, get one ad partner to when you launch the video and say it's 6-month contract, you're done there. You get paid again. Especially great for evergreen creators like myself. Second chance policy. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to get into a conversation about AI slop and where it may be leading consumers and their viewing kind of habits. So, Nick, let's talk about it. Give me your top change this year that YouTube made for creators.
So there's what they've made and there's what they have said that they're rolling out. So yes. I would love to talk about one of the things that they said that they're rolling out that should be coming for us soon. And that is something that you briefly touched on, which is the ad insertion. So when it comes to the ad insertion, what that is currently as content creators, when we are making videos and we do a brand deal or we promote our own products, whatever the thing is, then we have to burn these messages into our videos. And we don't have the opportunity to move them around or anything like that. We upload that video and then it's there unless we use YouTube's editor to take it out in the future, which is, clunky and messy and will usually make the video not, look as, or feel as smooth as somebody's going through it. So with this new feature, what it does is it allows content creators to essentially add their own ad slots into their video content to where you are going to be able to, for your own products or for brand deals, to where you can insert ads into your videos at whatever point it is that you choose. And then you can change those ads out. So let's say, for example, in Dusty's case, let's say that he starts a new podcast. Then what he can do once this feature is out is he can go into his archive of already made podcasts that are already on YouTube that are still getting views. And he can insert a message letting everybody know in all of those videos as they're interacting with him that he just launched this new podcast. And by doing that, for the people that are listening to those shows that are already enjoying Dusty's podcast, they're going to hear that message. And then once Dusty gets that podcast up and moving, he gets a little bit of, additional traffic coming from those videos. Then let's say he has a brand reach out and says, hey, Dusty, I want to give you, a big bag of money in order to, tap into the archive of content that you have. Dusty can say, oh, that's
bag.
great.
I need a big bag, Nick.
Huge bag. Yeah, big bag of money.
Yeah.
Then Dusty can say, hey, I've got all of these videos in my archive that I can swap out this previous message of promoting my podcasting, put your stuff in there as a part of this deal. I'll give you 3 months in those spots. And then 3 months later, if it's working out for you, great. We can continue that relationship if that's something that you're into. If not, then, that's okay too. And then Dusty can sell those same exact spots to somebody else. So from a content creator perspective, it's going to give us the opportunity essentially for brand deals that we have a good experience with in terms of the traffic that we're able to send them and the conversions they get or the awareness they get, whatever it is that they're happy with. We get the opportunity to essentially turn those into recurring income as long as the brands are getting a good experience from those integrations. So if they're not getting a good experience, then obviously they're not going to go with it. But for longer term brand deals and being able to get more money out of the content that you're producing, this, in my opinion, is going to be one of the biggest changes to YouTube ever. And the reason that I think that is because historically, when it comes to advertising, you're watching TV, then you'd have all these, brand inserts into those, and they would change over time based on whatever it is that you're watching. We're going to be able to do that same exact thing here on YouTube. The thing that I'm interested to see is the tolerance level of viewers and how they're going to respond to some of that, because in some cases, people don't mind, but in other cases, people do. And I think premium viewers, it's not going to be a problem, but for people that are not premium viewers, it's just one more place where they're going to have an ad forced on them. But, nobody rides for free. The saying around that one. So,
yeah, the word that I wrote down here, D, was leverage. It gives creators ultimate leverage. in that you do the 3 months that Nick was talking about. And let's just use my podcast again as an example, the Creators Hub podcast. And we can say to them, we have this catalog of 200 interviews that, yes, the 200th oldest episode's only getting 3 views, every week. But in combination, if we did this for 200 episodes, you're going to get let's say 10,000 eyeballs on your product just by going on this catalog of videos that I have. The power of the creator to say, it's a 3-month contract. You're going to give me $5,000 to go ahead and insert it in my old episodes. That's fantastic for me. It's pretty good 3 months for me for stuff I've already worked on. But then the power of this is to say, oh, you're seeing a good many clicks come into your product? Oh, okay. Well, the 3 months are up. Now, instead of 5K, it's 10K if you want to re-up, because I got people lining up because they've seen the results. So the power as a creator now is the leverage of knowing that we have this catalog of content, and it makes our backlog that much more important and powerful. But Deep, what do you see in all this?
No, I agree 100%. The leverage that we're going to have as creators, because you're no longer selling 1 video or 2 videos or 3 videos, you are selling your entirety of views across the channel. So any video that's still driving views, so it doesn't matter what it is, if you're getting 20,000 views a month, 100,000 views a month, 1 million views, whatever it is, that's what you have to leverage now. Not just, hey, I'm going to make a video and we're going to cross our fingers and hope that everything works and you're going to get the proper exposure and a great return on your investment. No, now you get all of these views, all these eyeballs are going to go on your product or your brand for however long we make this deal. That is so powerful. And I think creators are going to make so much more money, and it's going to work out better for the brands. This is a win-win.
Yep. All right, D, I'm going to give you the opportunity to bring up the next creator feature that was released this year that you're thinking about.
Well, that was the best one.
Yes,
Hands down.
sure.
I think that I'm the most excited about that one. I think across the board, that one's going to be the best. But, well, I don't have it yet. But the ability to do A/B testing for titles, I think that's really cool. And I don't know why I don't have it, but I don't have it yet. We've already had ABC testing for thumbnails, so we can figure out which one is performing the best. But now we're going to be able to, well, I will be able to soon. Most people have the ability to A/B test their titles now, which I think is fantastic. Because we don't always get it right. We don't always get it right with our titles and our packaging. Sometimes it's great, to be able to test different titles.
Yeah, I'm looking.
Nick, do you have it? Dusty, do you have it?
Yeah, it's rolled out. So you might not have it right now. It could just be based on your location.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah, that could be why it hasn't popped up yet.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Dusty, do you have it?
I do have it. I love the feature. I'm looking at it now as you were talking. I brought it up. The interface is so nice where it just says A/B testing, right, Nick? And then it says like title only, thumbnail only, or title and thumbnail. Gives you the option to put in 2 additional titles, so 3 total. The same for thumbnails. I think that when it comes to this, Nick, what are your recommendations for creators? How frequently should we be tweaking this? How quickly after the video is uploaded? Can you break that down?
So if you're not getting a lot of views on your videos, then in that case, make your first test and then let it run for a little bit and then, change it, a week or 2 later. If you get a lot of views on your videos, then in that case, change it once you get some data that's, significant in some way, and YouTube will let you know when you hit that threshold. If you are somebody that gets a lot of views on your videos, then in that case, run different packaging tests when you first publish the video in terms of, okay, so I'm going to do a different thumbnail and title, different thumbnail and title, different thumbnail and title, and I'm going to run these against each other, and I'm going to pay attention to what happens here as I, first start getting views on these videos. And then from there, once your videos start breaking out of the, engaged viewers, and you start going into more casual viewers, then that's where you might want to consider doing another test. But if you do have those winners already, then in that case, you can just ride that if you want to. But if you're somebody that is aggressively testing, because that takes a lot of work, which is why I'm throwing that disclaimer in there. But if you are somebody that is aggressively testing, then in that case, you can test again once you do notice that you start getting into that more casual viewer group. And then if you do make the type of content that is more broad appeal, then in that case, once it does settle into that audience more, let's say 28 days later, then in that particular case, do another test at that point. Or you can just run the one and just, go with the results of that. Or if you are somebody that's doing it aggressively, then following that pattern is a good way just to see how different groups of viewers respond to your content. And keep in mind, when it comes to these things, sometimes the topic by itself is going to be the thing. And then that's always the most important. And then when you're running these tests, like you might see a big difference in what it is that you're doing. You might see a minor difference, but always just remember, okay, well, this topic, regardless of what I'm seeing here, if it's like a small difference, then in this topic by itself, is this topic something that that I should really be running like a hard test on for my viewers, in terms of, is it something that is a broader appeal?
Yeah, the idea still has to be there.
Right.
You still need a great idea.
YouTube does not punish creators for A/B testing frequently, do they?
No, but here's the thing to think about is, just like any A/B testing, even when it was just on the thumbnails itself, you do have the issues of how viewers respond to each individual package or each individual change that you make. So for example, if you have one that is massively underperforming, then every time that gets an impression on somebody, if they, don't respond to that, then that is kind of working against you. But fortunately, you have the other ones that will hopefully carry the weight. That's why I mentioned, when it comes to, finalizing the test, to make sure that you are getting enough information that is significant, because sometimes creators will see those tests running and then they'll stop them quickly because they'll be like, oh no, this one's underperforming or whatever. But just make sure that you are getting enough information from YouTube that it is actually significant. And that is usually when the test completes. So yeah. So when it comes to that, just remember that all of those changes that you make, viewers are going to respond to each one differently, which is why the tool's there in the first place, so you can find the winners. But with that said, everything that people respond to less is technically working against you, right? So, but this is a way to find winners. And another thing to think about as a creator when you're using this is, sometimes it's going to make a difference on the video itself that you're watching. Other times, you're going to use it to track things across time. So for example, okay, in my thumbnails, typically, regardless of the different topics that I'm saying on my channel, if I put 2 people in my thumbnail or 3 people in my thumbnail, people seem to respond to those better compared to, 1 person in my thumbnail. Typically, when I focus on these types of objects in my thumbnails, the people typically respond to them better compared to when I do these. Or typically, when I use language that's pointed at the viewer, things like you, do people respond better to that compared to when I'm using I in my titles, right? So you just want to look at it from that perspective, and also use it as a way to gain information over time on what your audience seems to respond to best over time and across tests.
Yeah, I think for me, thumbnails have generally been utilized as far as A/B testing goes. Back when I was using TubeBuddy, vidIQ, whatever tool I was using, has always been to figure out click-through rate. And I historically have used it for future videos as well. So I'll do my testing for video A, but because of the data I find there, I'll make it applicable to future uploads of, oh, I learned this here. So it's not just the creator needs to understand, you're not just learning for said video, you're learning for the future of kind of your future upload. So I agree with everything that Nick just said. Really good stuff there.
Yep.
Okay, my turn.
Another thing really fast, if you don't mind, Dusty, is another thing to consider when it comes to this is, because YouTube is using watch time share, I just want to explain, just in case there's people that don't know why that's happening. And I want to say this just because you mentioned CTR. So YouTube isn't giving us CTR on all those different tests, because what YouTube's goal is viewer satisfaction on the platform. And because of that, why they're giving us the watch time share is because if somebody clicks on your videos and they abandon it quickly, then you might have a high click-through rate, but then people are leaving, and it might give you the idea that, okay, well, I have a high click-through rate, so this is working, but it's actually working against the video long-term. So the reason it's set up this way is so that they're trying to match the expectation that you're creating for the viewer versus the experience that the viewer actually has. So when you are looking at that, don't always think about it through the lens of, I'm just trying to get the highest click-through rate. Look at it through the lens of, am I setting the right, humanize it, right? Am I setting the right expectation for people as they're coming into the video? And that's how you actually end up with the higher watch time share from what it is that you're doing.
So just to follow up real quick on that, meaning with what you just said to be true, it doesn't necessarily mean if the click-through rate is high and the watch time is low that it's a bad video. What it may mean is that the thing that you're advertising, or the thing that you're giving off the video is about, that's getting those clicks, is not giving a return to the viewer that came there for that specific thing. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, because if somebody clicks into a video and they don't enjoy it, then they're going to leave quickly, right? So YouTube's just trying to find that sweet spot to where people are clicking on it, from a competitive rate, and then they're also enjoying the video based on their expectation when they clicked on it.
Yeah, think about like a website bounce rate, right?
Yeah.
If they're clicking in, you have a high click-through rate, but they're bouncing off the video as soon as they come in because it doesn't meet their expectations. That click-through rate's kind of giving you a false expectation of what's actually going on with the video.
Right.
Thumbnail's good, but then you're letting them down with the video. Goes back to packaging, right? We always talk about the entire thing has to be there. The idea, title, thumbnail, and you have to perform with the video as well.
I'd like to bring up live streaming and the changes they're making there. Not only what they've done thus far, but what they have announced and promised us. Live streaming for creators on YouTube, it's kind of had a up and down history, right? Where we had that season 3 or 4 years ago where all of the people from Twitch were getting huge bags of money thrown at them, like literally huge bags. Big bags.
Yeah.
We're talking about bags a lot here on this episode. But no
Dusty,
joke.
Do you ever come across those Twitch streamers and they're just making obscene amounts of money and you think to yourself, I've done everything wrong?
Yes.
What am I doing over here on YouTube making tutorials?
Yes. I look at my measly bags and think of them, and I look at someone like Tim the Tapman, who's probably making, $5 million a month at his peak. He was one of those creators that came over to YouTube. Now we're seeing a lot of relinquishing of the reins from Twitch where they're saying, yes, you can multicast. YouTube's always allowed that, but now Twitch is getting smart and saying, yeah, you can stream on Twitch and YouTube and Kick or whatever and do all of these things. But these creators are, the amount of money that they're making is not realistic to the normal human. It's the upper 0.1%. And I want to talk about live streaming for the rest of us in that YouTube is providing us tools and they're continually updating the way that you can do things. We saw that with memberships. We saw that with gifting memberships. We saw that with super chats. But Nick, I want to talk about right now. Streaming on YouTube, I believe, used to, I would say it would really be relative to what kind of creator you are. I would now say it's reversed where there's only a small subset of creators that I wouldn't recommend live streaming for. You guys do a weekly show on Saturdays where you do a different answer YouTuber questions, and you guys make money from that, not only from the ad revenue, but from super chats and just overall brand awareness. So let's talk about live streaming and what YouTube's doing for that space. Nick, we'll start with you, and then D, you can follow up.
Yeah, so when it comes to live streaming, they are just rolled out actually multi-aspect ratio live streaming. So in the past, when we would go live, you would have to set up different RTMP keys and or different stream keys, and you would have to put them into software, and you would have to basically create 2 completely different streams on YouTube in order to have your regular 16:9 aspect ratio stream and also have a stream hitting the vertical shelf. It was such a painful thing to do that, that we only did it like a handful of times because it was like, you know what, this just isn't even worth it. So YouTube, now they have multi-aspect live streaming. So how it works is you create one live stream and then they put it on the regular version of YouTube in 16:9, and then they also crop it to the middle, and then they put it into the vertical shelf as well. And all of your stats are combined. All of the chat is combined. So instead of having to manage a bunch of different things, everything is centralized, which allows you to have one stream going out and trying to reach anybody that's interested in your type of content. And I think that is a huge win when it comes to YouTube, because the vertical shelf is a great way to introduce yourself to people that have never seen you before. And when it comes to live streaming, I've done some vertical live streams that have gotten tons and tons of views on them. And when it comes to vertical, it's just a great way to, pop up in somebody's feed. And if they're into the conversation, then they can either join right there on the spot, or they can go over and join in the long form as viewers get more trained up to do that. Then they can just sit there and, enjoy that content. So I think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the only thing I have to add to that is I think it's great that YouTube's allowing us to meet the viewer where they are, right? Not everybody's sitting in front of a computer where they're wanting to watch, the 16:9 live stream. A lot of people they're just scrolling. They're doom scrolling on their phone, going through shorts one after the other. And YouTube is putting live streams in there. So I think it's great. Meet the viewer where they are. And
So
there's something interesting. Let me just go another moment on this. I like both. I like watching both. But there's something to be said about a live stream, especially when somebody's cropped in here. And TikTok really did this well,
They
to
did.
where when you go live, and now YouTube is doing that as well. When you go live and somebody's completely filling your phone, it feels like there's just something authentic happening there. It feels like it's a little bit more personal. It almost makes me feel like you're FaceTiming with the person, because they fill up the entire screen instead of having all this dead space around them that you might normally see on your computer. So I think there's an intimacy that's happening with vertical live streaming across the various platforms, and I'm here for it. I think it's great.
Yeah, so I'm on Nick, your channel right now, and you do the creators only chats on Saturdays, I believe. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You and D host one of the better live streaming shows on YouTube. You guys do such a great job. The quality is super high and people are so interactive. Something that you've done though, and Roberto and I talk about this quite often when he comes on the show, and I tell people all the time, can you talk about how you're getting views and you're optimizing the stream possibly to get views after you hit stop streaming?
Sure. So really it just comes down to the packaging itself. So we could optimize the stream around the name of the show, which is what a lot of podcasters do, a lot of live streamers do. Like if somebody does like a morning show, they optimize it around the morning show. And when you optimize your live stream, your podcast around the show name, it doesn't give a new person any context. So if somebody is already familiar with it, then sure, they qualify to view that. But if somebody isn't familiar with it yet, then it doesn't mean anything to them. Having Nimmin Live as the title, Nimmin Live episode, whatever, it doesn't mean anything to somebody that's brand new. However, if it's framed around learn how to grow your YouTube channel, then you get to make that connection to where somebody that's interested in growing a YouTube channel or learning about YouTube, then they can identify at a glance that it's for them. The same exact thing applies when it comes to the thumbnail. So we use the same thumbnail every Saturday, which is something that I actually don't recommend. If you're actively trying to leverage your live streams for growth, I wouldn't do that. I would, package each one individually. But we do it for community reasons to serve the people that are already interacting with the content. So even with that, though, in order to grab people's attention, I still put a big YouTube logo in there. So if you're a YouTuber and you're on YouTube, that's at least going to grab your attention because YouTube is in your brain because you're a content creator. And then hopefully from there, you're going to look down at the title. And then we put creators only on there so that we only have YouTubers clicking on it, because I don't want other people clicking in there because they're not who we're there for. So when it comes to optimizing that for the actual live stream and for the replay, that happens the same. In addition to that, when we open it up, even though we make it a little messy sometimes when we open it up, just because it's a fun thing for us, one of the things that we also try to do is we do plug the show name really quick. And then we also try to let people know that we have timestamps down in the video description quickly. And we try to just give that new viewer a little bit of information about what might be going on right as they come into the live stream as well. So all that stuff is for the live stream, but it's also a way to make sure that you're informing people through the packaging and through the content as they start to come into it.
D, you guys have been doing this show now for around, 2-3 years, maybe even longer than that.
Longer, I think. 7 years.
7 years. Okay, I was looking at.
You were close, man. You were really close.
So if I go, okay, I was sorting by most popular. I'm sorry,
no,
not
you were really
not
close, man. Yeah.
Streamed 8 years ago. Yeah, 8 years ago. You guys were starting Nimmin Live, which is a really cool thing. You do it on Saturday morning, like Saturday morning cartoons. What are some things that you've learned about streaming, D, that has changed over the past few years that are now working? You can talk maybe monetization, what keeps viewers watching. I mean, the watch time on these things have to be through the roof, right? Because the people that are there oftentimes are drinking their coffee on Saturday mornings, and they're there kind of watching you guys for, we're talking 2, 3, 4 hours. I mean, some of these streams you guys did years ago were 5-6 hour streams. You guys were crazy, but you guys had a little more vitality back in the day. But with that being said, D, what have you learned about streaming over the years?
Wow. That's a big question. What have I learned about streaming over the years? I've learned that, I may have talked about this before in a previous episode, Dusty. I actually waited to start streaming on my own channel until I reached a certain subscriber count. I was already streaming with Nick, and I had this thing built up in my head because I was streaming with him at the time. And back then, I think he may have had 150,000, 200,000 subscribers, something like that. So he pretty big live streams coming in. So in my head, I had this worked up that if I'm going to do this on my own channel and do it by myself, I need to have a large subscriber count. And I waited until I got 10,000 subscribers to do my first solo live stream. That was a huge mistake. That was probably one of the biggest mistakes I've made on my channel, which I've made plenty of mistakes on. I think that I strongly believe that if you are even considering live streaming, don't worry about your subscriber count. Start live streaming. Go live to whoever's going to show up, because you have to learn a lot of things. You have to learn your gear. You have to learn how to keep the communication flowing. You have to learn how to share your screen or do whatever it is that you're going to do. Problem solve on the fly. You have all these things you have to learn, and it's easier to do that to 2 people or 5 people or in front of 10 people than it is to do it in front of several hundred people. So I waited until I got 10,000 subscribers, and it was trial by fire on that one, and it was terrifying. And I actually went backwards afterwards. So I was like, okay, this is great, but there's too many people in here for me to do this by myself. It lost some intimacy. So I started streaming over on Twitch, doing these tiny little streams over on Twitch where maybe 10 people would show up, so I could speak to everyone in the chat. And that was incredibly gratifying. So what I've learned is live streaming isn't always about the numbers. It's about your ability to communicate with who's in your chat. So don't be discouraged if you don't have a lot of people showing up in your live stream. Cherish that, because when you get to the point where you do have more people in there, you can't speak to everyone. You can't answer everyone's questions. You can't address everyone. People are going to feel left out. So I think the main thing that I've learned is to cherish smaller live streams while you still can, because there's something really intimate with that.
All right, I interrupt the conversation just briefly to tell you about a few of our services. Number one, I offer one-on-one YouTube coaching, whether it be a one-off meeting or is something that you want to keep doing monthly. That's something that I've been doing now for a few years, and I've worked with hundreds of creators and really enjoy that part of my business. Also, we do YouTube channel reviews and audits where I record a 6 to 7 minute screencast video telling you where I think you should be spending your time as far as improving your brand and just your overall awareness on YouTube. And then we've got a bunch of other things like our mastermind group. $5 gets you in there. You get access to the YouTube creator forums. You get access to our mastermind calls. I do exclusive podcast recordings on that feed every Friday as well. And then we also have our email newsletter, the Entrepreneur's Minute, where you can keep up with me, tools I'm using, things I'm reading, stuff that I'm into. And then we have the Toolbox, which is just a running spreadsheet of links that are mentioned here on the podcast from either me or the guests that I have on the show. And with that said, let's go ahead and hop back into the conversation. Yeah, I would say that it's something that I want to do in the new year with this podcast. Now that the YouTube channel is very prevalent for what I'm doing and the video version of the show continues to grow, I want to do live streams. I haven't thought of what I want to call it. You guys, Nimmin Live is so cool. Creator conversations or coffee with creators. I don't know, just something that allows me the ability to connect with my audience on a more intimate and personal level. And I think live streaming is another way of doing that. It's another way of increasing watch time. And there's nothing people love more. And Nick, you can attest to this. You said it last year. I heard our conversation. People love to hear their names on a video. There's something personal about hearing Nick Nimmin say my channel name or whatever it may be. And we haven't even really scratched the surface on monetization, right, Nick? Live streams are such a boon to creators in the form of super chats, channel memberships, the ad revenue you get from these
gifting memberships.
Gifting memberships, which is a new thing now. If you are a channel that is trying to build and grow a community, I think it's just a flat statement. And Nick, you can agree or disagree with me here. You need to be streaming. And the skill sets that you are improving on, you're improving on, like Dee said, you're improving on being able to talk to no one, being able to riff, being able to ad lib, being able to communicate to where it's not unnatural. There's so many things that as a creator, live streaming teaches you that can be applied to other forms of, say, podcasting, regular long form videos, writing, which is something I'm trying to improve at, storytelling. These are all things
like being on stage.
Yes.
Yeah. Helpful
being
there
on
too.
stage.
Yeah, it's great.
Yes. Roberto mentioned that in our last conversation. That's a really good pull there. So live streaming, if you're not doing it, I would certainly look into it because I think it's only going to get more and more feature sets along the way.
Dusty, I would like to add something to that.
Go ahead.
And I know we're going to talk about this a little bit later here in the show. As AI continues to flood all of these platforms, and it's coming, the good and the bad, and we're going to talk about this. But I think being able to live stream and be a human, right? That's good. we probably are years away. I mean, it's probably coming, but we're probably years away still from AI being able to live stream in a way that can mimic what makes us human. And maybe it will never get there. And I cross my fingers and hope that it never will. But right now, that's the one thing that we truly have that AI cannot replicate. Our ability to just be human, flaws and all, warts and all, everything that we do, because we don't have to be perfect on live streams, and our audience doesn't expect us to be perfect on live streams, nor should you strive to be perfect on live streams. They're there to see a human. So be human. I think that's what's going to help separate some of us from this tsunami of AI content that's coming in. So lean into live streaming right now.
And with that said, I would like to just take a moment to highlight in China, they had a guy there. He's like this huge live streamer over there that sells like millions of dollars of products per live stream. And they had a Chinese company that cloned him, and they made an avatar of him. And they did a live stream over there, and he sold $5 million worth of product. He outsold the human version of, what he normally does with his AI avatar. So that technology, I think, is coming faster.
It's coming. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's
they've already got it over there. So I think it's coming faster here, because it usually takes us a while in the Western world to do those types of things. But yeah, I think that that's definitely coming on the near horizon for sure.
Stay human, people.
Yeah.
Hold on to your humanity
Hashtag
for as long
human.
as you can.
Yeah.
Hashtag, let's
I need to
start
write
that
down
hashtag trending.
show title ideas. Stay human with Nick and D. Nimmin.
Yeah.
So I want to talk just briefly, because I am a podcaster, and at heart, it is where I started. It is the thing that has brought me so much joy over the years. YouTube obviously is right there with it, but doing these conversations every week, guys, has allowed me to increase my circle of influence, meet people like the two of you, grow friendships, and be able to become an authority in a space where I had no business becoming an authority. And I know we all feel like that at some point, right? But
Sure.
podcasting is near and dear to my heart, and the space is changing. Apple made some changes recently with the whole podcasting thing. We have Spotify.
Somebody run with
And
that. That sounds interesting.
YouTube continues to double down on podcasting. A lot of it harkens back to what we talked about at the top of the show. TV viewing being up, long form viewing being up. I can't tell you how many times I've pulled up a Diary of a CEO podcast or a Tim Ferriss or a Chris Williamson podcast and put it on my phone, on my walk, and just listen to it in my ears as it's
Passive
playing on
listening.
YouTube.
Passive listening.
Exactly. Active listening. That's what they call it. So I think that even if we don't have a discussion about this, you guys don't really have to give me feedback on this. I just think that if you're a creator and you're an authority on something, and you're talking about real estate, and you're talking about whatever your topic is, I think you would be smart to look into launching a podcast to be a companion piece to that. Do either of you guys have opinions on podcasting and what YouTube's doing to grow the space?
Yeah. If it makes sense, do it. I think that's the same question as, should you live stream? Should you make short form content? Should you publish content elsewhere? Should I make a podcast? I think the answer is yes. Test it. If you have content that makes sense in those formats, you should absolutely try it. And when I say try it, I don't mean one video. I mean, commit to it. Commit to it for 3 months or 6 months and see what you can build, because you don't know where you're going to meet your audience. So absolutely try it. And you're right. Podcasting is huge. It's only getting bigger. A lot of people, like you said, you do it yourself. You'll put on these podcasts and go for a walk. Right? So yeah, if it makes sense, definitely test it.
Yeah, podcasts are great for strengthening and creating parasocial relationships, just because it is such an intimate experience when you are, in that example, you're going for a walk or you're at the gym or something and you have those headphones in. It's great for that type of thing. But in addition to that, for those of you that are anti-video but you're pro-podcast, YouTube is also rolling out a feature. One of the things that they announced was that they are going to be providing videos for audio-only podcasts in the future. So as a part of this, you're going to be able to upload your audio track, and then they're going to use their Google Veo in order to generate visual assets automatically so that the podcasts look like videos. Now, I have no idea what this is going to look like, because I can't imagine, like, for example, a true crime podcast. Like, what are they going to show during that? But the fact that they are making those those to try to make it so that people that are either intimidated by video or they just don't have interest in video or they don't want to buy the equipment, whatever the thing is, they're also making podcast video more accessible for more people. So because of that, I think once that feature drops, there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be doing podcasting on YouTube. So in alignment with what Dusty was saying is if you do think podcast is something that you might want to try, I would go ahead and start getting the practice in now so that once that feature does drop, you're already ahead of the curve in terms of, already having a podcast out, already having, a podcast that they could turn into video, essentially, even if you're not somebody that's going to be on camera.
Guilty pleasure here. I love some of the VO3 videos, the AI video creation, where they have things like dogs and apes and Bigfoot doing podcasts.
Yeah, those are great.
So in terms of creating podcasts, or they're creating videos for our podcast, that would be a fun thing to have. Like, hey, would you like gorillas to do your podcast?
Right.
Yeah, why not?
I made one of those for my dog, D, by the way. I made one of those for popcorn.
Yeah.
As with a lot of things with artificial intelligence, I'm waiting on it to get there. I'm waiting on it to be what I want it to be. I'll be honest with you guys. If in a perfect world, I'd love to be able to feed this show into an AI. And for example, as we were talking about the AI or the A/B testing just a few minutes ago, I wouldn't have to go in and clip a screencast of that they'd be able to show me, video that's relative to the conversation and seamlessly integrate it. I'll be honest with you. I use Riverside to record my podcast, which is what we're doing right now. And then I use Descript to do some other kind of fine tuning. Both of them have a similar feature to what YouTube's talking about. And I will say, I've tried to use their AI editor before. It may be because I'm a narcissist and a little bit OCD about things, but it just is not there yet. It's not how I want the show done. And again, it may be a little bit of relinquishing of me, the creator. And we'll talk about AI workflows here coming up towards the end of the show. But I'll be honest with you, Nick, I'm excited because some shows that I got in the works going into the new year, I got a Podcasters Unplugged show, which is going to be all for podcasters, going to be a bi-weekly show, about a 15-minute monologue from me where I either interview podcasters or I talk about a podcasting tip or strategy. That show I'm bringing back from the dead. I would love to use this feature where I would record the audio. I have the YouTube channel and the Spotify video, and as I'm talking, it has some video assets going on in the background. That would be amazing. And if that really does kind of continue to build and compound and get better like everything in AI seems to do rapidly, I'm all here for it. I'm ready for it. As a podcaster who continues to do this medium, I would love for that to be something that I use on a daily basis. So really
think of this. Think of this also with there's a service called HeyGen where they do like full avatars. Opus Clip is toying with avatars right now also for their Agent Opus feature. And with the avatars, they might also apply some of that. I don't know. So, I'm not saying that this is coming for YouTube, but it would make sense that if you have a podcast where people would be able to upload images and then they would be able to actually build avatars for them and actually put people in podcast environments and make it look more like an interview, logically, that seems like something that they would do instead of just showing B-roll the whole time. So again, I don't know if this is something that they're thinking about, but I would assume that somewhere down the line that it's going to end up turning into that, to where you upload a photo and then your guest uploads a photo and then they can do the avatars if you're not on camera personally.
That's probably like 2 weeks away based on how things are
probably.
going.
Yeah.
Right.
China's already doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's, if you're in the gaming sphere, which a lot of my viewers, not a lot of them, but a handful of them are in the gaming space, you see like VTubers where they have these specific virtual avatars that are mimicking their voice, and it's that technology is only getting better. So we'll talk about AI here in a minute. We're already 52 minutes into this episode, and I've got a lot more things that I want to cover. Are we good to go a little while longer, guys?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so let's talk quickly about the second chance policy. D, I'll start with you on this one. YouTube are giving bad players a bit of a second chance or a little bit of a redemption arc. What does this mean, and what exactly is their second chance policy?
Their second chance policies, exactly like you said, if you've done something in the past within reason, there are some things, I believe, if you were terminated due, I think it was hate speech or copyright issues, you do not get a second chance. There might be some other rules in there as well. But generally speaking, if you did something else and your channel was terminated, you get a second chance. They don't give you back all of your content. You don't get all of your subscribers back, but you get to come back and create a new channel, bring your channel back. I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. Sometimes YouTube can be a little heavy-handed. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I
believe
know
this has
Renee.
chances.
Yeah, Renee Ritchie, who is the creator liaison at YouTube, he kind of championed this whole thing. And I think it's fantastic. I had the opportunity to talk to him about it at Vid Summit. And one of the things that he mentioned there was that, sometimes content creators, they start channels at 13. And
Yeah.
we all know, because we're way past 13, we all know that, sometimes you do things when you're a younger person that might not be the best thing. And there are repercussions when you do those things. And because of that, sometimes people do break rules, or they don't know the rules, even for, older folks. They don't know the rules. And because of that, they break them. And YouTube basically opened this up to give people another chance, so that unless they have like a severe violation on or off platform and it's not copyright related, as long as you wait a year before applying for a new channel, you can have a fresh channel and you can try again, essentially. But as a part of that, if you are in that situation, if you're somebody that's listening to this and you're there, read the rules. Read the community guidelines, read the terms of service, make sure that you are up to date on what's happening, because there's a lot of little nuanced rules around YouTube that sometimes people break and they don't even know it. For example, there's a podcast that reached out to me lately, and I was looking at their channel and I found out that they're using a bunch of other YouTube channels in their tags on their YouTube channel. And for them, it was no big deal. They just thought that that was what people did in order to try to get connected to those channels in some way. And that's actually a violation when it comes to YouTube under misleading metadata. So when it comes to those little nuanced rules, it's really important to make sure that you are informed of those, because if you break them, then you end up without that second chance. It happens again.
Yeah, it was something that in the early days of podcasting, I'll let you guys in on a little secret. This was about 13 years ago when I started the show. It was very much common practice for a smaller podcast. I would listen to Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas. I had him on the show early on in the podcast. And one of the recommendations to start and grow a podcast would be to, in your podcast, on the audio side, you would tag popular podcasters. So you would say, Tim Ferriss or Pat Flynn, and you would put, this is a show inspired by, right? Like you tried to make it, I did it with the show because I was, like you said, Nick, when you're younger and you're inexperienced, you don't know what's right from wrong. The next thing that I want to kind of close the show with is going to be artificial intelligence. And, we hear the term AI slop, and, AI is everywhere. And so I want to do two parts of this conversation. The first part, I want to talk about where we see AI affecting the creator space. And we'll open with Nick first and then go to D. And then I want to close it out with your workflows and where you're implementing AI. And so let's go ahead and go with this first part of the conversation. I believe, I'm going to open this topic with this statement. I believe that we are going to see a retrace of consumer habits once AI becomes more and more mainstream, which it already is. It's way more mainstream today than it was when we had this conversation even last year. And just the speed at which it's happening is just mind-boggling to me. We made jokes about it earlier on in the show. With that being the case, though, guys, I believe we're going to see people and consumers really seeking real human interaction, real humans in the videos that they watch. I've done a lot of reading and research into this topic. We'll start with you, Nick. What do you feel and how do you feel AI is going to impact the creator space and consumption habits?
I think that AI is going to make it to where it's really easy to fool people and make them think that it's human. So already through services like HeyGen, you can create an avatar there. So I created some in a video that I published recently, and they're not that great because I didn't turn off the HDR on my camera, which is something they recommend that you do, things like that. But you can train it to where, like, let's say it's you sitting there with your phone where you don't have those settings turned on, to where you can get it to look pretty much like anything that you see on the screen right now. And because of that, there are some barriers to, that keep it from feeling real. And that is that sometimes, the emphasis on things isn't right and that sort of thing. But those are just minor details, and it just keeps getting better and better. So I think in the very near future, probably by the time we have this conversation next year, they're probably going to have most of that stuff ironed out. In fact, I can't remember her name off the top of my head because this is just kind of how it works on TikTok. But there's somebody in TikTok that I watch that talks about AI and teaches people about like AI coding and stuff like that. And she did a experiment to where she was using an avatar, and the way that you could identify her avatar, she put a purple hat on it. And she basically told, her viewers, she said, hey, any content that you see that has a purple hat, that's my avatar. just so you know, because I'm running this experiment. That avatar ended up outperforming her content and getting millions and millions and millions of views compared to just her. So people thought that it was her. So in a situation like this, it's going to be a little bit different because you're taking up the full screen. But when people are reacting to things to where they're smaller down in the bottom left or right-hand side of the screen, then in that particular case, it's not as big of a deal, because even right now as humans, if we do a reaction video and we cut ourselves out on one of these apps and the vertical platforms, there's a really good chance it's going to be, the cutout's not going to be perfect and things like that anyway. So then when you apply that to an avatar, it's going to feel real, like in her particular situation. So I think that there is that. And I think that as content creators, it's definitely going to take up some market share, but the people that are putting that content together, and this is something D says all the time, and I 100% agree with, but the people that are putting that content together, they still have to understand what good is in order to, really publish it and make the most out of it and to become like a real, to become real competition. So because of that, I think there is that threat on the horizon. But on the positive side, we can also use this stuff as creators as well. So, if you're a human making content, then in that case, depending on the type of content you make, because it's more appropriate for some types than others, but depending on the type of content that you make, it might help you be more consistent using that from time to time. I know that you can use 11 Labs right now, and you can use avatars for this as well, to where if you mess something up in a video, you can just hop into 11 Labs. If your voice is already trained there, just type out what it is that you were saying, and then it will give you a version that sounds pretty close to you. And then you can use that to fill in the blanks if you made a mistake somewhere. So we're able to leverage this stuff to make our content better as well, maybe to help with consistency, those sorts of things. So when it comes to AI, I don't think it's a threat really, but I do think that there is things to consider there. And I think that a lot of people that are afraid to go on camera, I think that it's going to help those people have a voice and be able to make content, because it's just it removes that barrier to entry, which is one of the things that stops a lot of people from making content, is I don't want to put myself out there. But if you can build an avatar that can do it for you and that doesn't look like you, or that does, either one, then in that case, you don't have to be the one, putting yourself out there.
This is a big conversation.
Mhm.
I agree with you, Dusty. I think that at some point, well, it's starting now, actually, I think there will be a percentage of viewers who will gravitate more towards human creators. But the problem is we are very quickly moving to a point to where an AI creator is going to be indistinguishable from a real creator. That is coming at us really fast. I mean, it's already there to a degree, but if you're pixel peeping and if you're listening to certain things, you can hear artifacts or you can see some inconsistencies and say, their hair is not moving the right way. This is the worst that it's ever going to be. For as much as you're going to see or say, this is AI slop, this is as bad as it's ever going to be. And it is increasing in terms of quality and how it's going to deceive us by the day. We're going to have this conversation next year. And we're probably going to say something like, we didn't expect it to advance this quickly.
Right.
We're going to have this conversation next year, and it's going to be a completely different conversation. I will put money on it. And I'm all for it. I agree with what Nick says. YouTube already has a low barrier to entry. If you have a phone and an internet connection, and you can borrow the internet connection, you can borrow the phone, you have a voice. You can tell your story. You can share your message. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. If you have something to say and you have a phone and an internet connection, you have a voice. You can tell the world what's happening, share all of your stories, whatever you can dream up, you can do it. And now with the help of AI, you don't even have to be on camera. So there are people who don't want to go on camera, or maybe they can't go on camera for whatever reason, or maybe they can't speak. Maybe their accent is too heavy. Maybe they hate the sound of their voice. There's a million reasons why somebody doesn't go on camera or make a podcast. And all of those hurdles are gone. You can now create video through AI that looks real. Now, you can't sit down and make a 20-minute video with it yet, but you can make 5-second clips, 10-second clips. You can edit them together. You can make creations that you can't make otherwise. Just, forget the fact that just, a talking head video, just something that's incredible, something futuristic. This is what the world might look like in 20 years. And you can make this AI creation something that Hollywood would have spent millions of dollars trying to make. You can now do that on your laptop while you're drinking a coffee. That is incredible. And while we talked at the beginning of this podcast about how there's no better time to start YouTube than now, I fully believe that, not only because it's the best time to start, but we have access to so many tools now. There's literally no excuse for you not to make videos. If you can access a phone or a computer, you can make content one way or the other, either by getting in front of the camera or by speaking to a microphone or by making prompts that can create videos or prompts that can create audio that sounds pretty passable. For 99.9% of the people. I know, Dusty, you're a professional voiceover actor, so you can hear that. You can hear the nuance between an AI created voice and a human voice, but the average person, they don't know. They're not going to be able to tell. They probably can't tell already. So I'm super excited about this. To your point, yes, humans are going to gravitate towards real humans, but at what point are they not going to be able to know? And I have a love-hate relationship with this. Nick and I were talking about this at day over coffee. Sora, there's an app called Sora, and you've probably seen this, where it's short form video. It looks real. It sounds real for most people. And it's so real that they've had to put their watermark on it so people know that it's made by AI. But if you're using the API, you can take the watermark off. And here's where I have a problem with that. And this is why I think we're going to have some crazy lawsuits happening in the future. They are using the likeness of people, of like Bob Ross or Mr. Rogers, people who have built a legacy on being wholesome and being kind. They're icons, and they've built a legacy of this, and they're no longer with us. And Sora, the AI Sora, they are making AI videos by the thousands of these people who have built this legacy, and they're tarnishing this legacy, having them do things that are just inappropriate, incredibly inappropriate. My love-hate relationship with this is I love it. We essentially have a blank canvas with all of the tools that we could ever dream of to create anything we could possibly imagine if you can just learn how to prompt it. That's powerful. You still, like Nick said, you still have to know what's good. I can give you a set of tools. I can give you a tape measure. I can give you saws. I can give you hammers. I can give you nails. That doesn't mean you can build a house. It means that you've got a bunch of tools and I can direct you towards a pile of wood. You might be able to make something, maybe you can't. The same thing applies with AI. You have the tools, but you still have to know how to make things and how to make something that actually looks good that people respond to. So on that side, it's incredible and I'm super excited. The other side of that, I think there's going to be lawsuits that are going to change copyright law, trademark law, and just fundamentally how we view intellectual property moving forward. I just saw today that Disney is now getting in on AI. They're going to allow Disney characters to be made in AI, and they've been known to protect their intellectual property, and now they're getting in on the AI game. YouTube has built in VO3 into shorts, so people can now create AI on YouTube Shorts. So you can't get away from this. And just yesterday, I saw the headlines, and I don't know how organic this is, or I don't know if it's been manipulated, but apparently the #1 country song in the United States is an AI-created country song. So
that's wild.
We're at the stage where it's passable, and it's only going to get better. So I'm excited for it. I'm terrified about it. I'm split, but we can't get away with it. So harness the tools that have been given to us. You can use these tools to work faster, to work more efficiently, to help you brainstorm, to help you visualize things and come up with concepts that you could have never dreamt of a year ago or 2 years ago. I use AI a lot. I use ChatGPT, I use Claude, I use Midjourney. I use these all the time. They've become part of my workflow. And I know, Dusty, you wanted to talk about workflow, but that's my take on AI. I'm here for it. I'm scared of where it's going to go. As creators, we thought that we were going to be the last one standing when AI's coming. They're not. AI's coming. It's not going to touch creators. AI is never, ever going to be able to do what we do. We were the first ones to be taken down. They came and swept the leg of creators. So our understanding of what's happening with AI, I think, is a little bit off. And for people who say, "Oh, I hate AI. I'm taking a stand against AI," let's be clear about something. you're not against AI because you use AI every day in your life. The YouTube algorithms are AI. The auto predict on the spelling correction on your phone is AI. The little robot that vacuums your living room is AI. Like, we use AI every day and we don't complain about it. But when it comes to creativity, it's a problem because we're threatened by it. And to be fair, AI was built on plagiarism. So let's just call that for what it is. AI has learned how to do this stuff based on plagiarism. We've taught it how to replace us or try to replace us. So I can see where the pushback comes from, but it's not AI slop anymore. And embrace it or ignore it at your own peril.
Dee's not going to say this, but Dee's been experimenting with this on other platforms, and he's using it actually, I know, on TikTok as one example. He has, I think there's one account, he does this with multiple accounts, but there's one account where he doesn't have that many videos on it. It might be 10 videos or something. And like every video that he publishes to that account, he's got like 100,000 plus views on it. Some of them are approaching like 3 million views, and it's all AI generated content. He's the human in the middle, so he's quality control. But he's leveraging that right now to grow TikTok accounts.
Yeah. To be specific, what I've done is I'm using Midjourney to create the visuals and the animations. I'm using ChatGPT to help me concoct mini stories. They're my ideas, right? I come up with the ideas, but then I workshop them in ChatGPT, come up with the mini stories. I prompt ChatGPT to help me come up with prompts to make realistic looking images and how to animate them properly inside of Midjourney. And I upload them to TikTok. And like Nick said, I'm getting hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views in several videos, and they're making money. I was monetized within, I think, 2 weeks, and that account's making money.
6 videos. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, like 6 videos. I was monetized. Yeah. It's all AI driven. Even the voice. I'm using 11 Labs for the voice. I take the script that ChatGPT makes, I put it into 11 Labs. I created a voice inside of 11 Labs. Not my voice. It's a British BBC style, documentary style presenter that I created, and I put them all together, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I could have never.
It's so good. When he first sent it to me, he was like, "Hey, check this out," and he sent it to me, and I played it on my TV, and I would have thought that it was the History Channel that made it. Like, it was, it's so good. Yeah, really good.
Yeah.
Can we link to it, Dee? Do you mind if we put it in the show notes?
We can.
Okay.
We can, but be warned, it's wild.
Yeah.
I love wild stuff.
It's purposefully wild, but that was the whole test. Can I take something that's completely absurd and use AI to create this thing? And number one, will people respond to it? And number two, can I make money doing it? And the answer, it was yes and yes.
Yeah. I love stuff like this. I am not anti-AI in any way, shape, or form. But I will say this, and not to push back to what you guys are saying, there's going to have to be some form of moderation.
Yes.
Of whether it's a law that is, worldwide. You can't do that, but in every geographical location, there's going to have to be some type of, how do we contain this?
Yes.
What is allowed and what isn't? That's a conversation we can have on another podcast that would last for a couple of hours. So I'm not going to delve into that right now. The other half of this that worries me is not the part that most people say. They're like, oh, loss of jobs and it's going to take over this and take over that. I don't think so. I think it's going to be like everything else in the world. If you're a human that's willing to do hard things and is willing to put in the work, whether it be research, whether it be the back end that Dee's doing to create these really absurd videos, you're going to have to be a human that's willing to put in the time and the effort and the work. And we are living in a society right now that people want things to come so easy. And I think that artificial intelligence really plays to those people. That's what scares me. I saw a post from a young gentleman just out of high school from our church recently. Super amazing guy. But he made this post about someone in his family. It was their birthday. And he made this Facebook post. And it was such a sentimental, amazing post. But the formatting was terrible. There were run-on sentences. You could tell that his generation, no offense to him, is coming up in a time where they can go to ChatGPT and tell it to help them and do their stuff for them, write these things for them. There's a difference in that and then what Dee's doing and what we're talking about. And this is coming from a voice actor who was making 3 years ago $6,000 to $8,000 just with voice work on average. Could be more, could be less. And that has almost completely been obliterated. Now, I'm still making a good amount of money from it because what I found is that once a client finds you and they like you, it's almost as easy to pay you than it is to do the 11 labs. I mean, 11 labs is great. You can copy this in, but right now the nuances are a little bit, they're just not there for radio ads and radio reads. But for artificial intelligence, I am so adamant that if you're a creator, you need to be learning this stuff. You need to be diving in head first into this stuff. Nick was showing me a browser plugin that he was making off air just a second ago. Amazing stuff. Things that weren't possible a few years ago are now possible for everyone because of the availability of this thing. But I'm so scared that our governments and people with power and money are going to manipulate this and utilize it to an extent that I think could be very damaging. And you talked about it briefly, Dee, with deep fakes of popular characters. I would hate to grow a brand, and something that I've been very adamant about from the start of my brand and image is that I want to be positive. I want to be uplifting. I don't want to use profanity. I don't, these are decisions that I've made that are on a Google sheet of who I want to be to the public. I would hate for someone to use this and use my likeness to post things that are just obscene and awful and use my avatar. That's what scares me about it. And I think there has to be some type of moderation there. And I think that there will be. I just hope that we do it the right way. I'm not worried about AGI and all that. They can figure all that out. I'm worried more about the damage that it can do to people that their brains are still forming, younger people, younger generations. And then the deep fake stuff really does worry me. I'll be honest with you, with 11 Labs, I did this thing where I uploaded my voice, I cloned my voice, and they allow you to sell your voice. I was making like 10 or 15 bucks a day. But what happened is I got an email from one of my viewers, of the listeners of the podcast, and they said, "Oh, Dusty, just so you know, your voice is being used on an awful video that was talking about some awful stuff." And they recognized my voice, and the video had like 3.7 million views. It had already gone viral, and it had my voice on it. And so I pulled back because I knew that there's a way now you can go in there and tag it and say no political, no this, no that, but the rules are kind of blurry. The lines are kind of blurry there. So if you're a creator, the final statement I'm going to say about this, and I know these guys are itching to talk more about this, and I am too, but I want to leave it at this statement. You better be diving into this stuff. You better be learning it. You better be figuring it out, because it's going to be, years ago you needed to learn, HTML or how to format a Word document. Now you got to learn how to prompt and how to do these things and how to generate things from artificial intelligence. So let's now go into workflows.
Dusty,
let's start with you, Nick. Go ahead, Dee. Go ahead. Yes.
One thing before we move into this, for everyone listening right now, I know there's a lot of people who are listening right now saying, "I'm not interested in AI. I'm going to be the last human standing." And I respect that. But what I want the other people to understand is you don't have to use AI on a single project. You might have your main project, your main brand, your main business. That's your thing. And I'm just going to keep doing that the way I'm doing it. That's great. But what I want you to understand is every little idea that's ever just scratched in your brain that you're like, wouldn't it be cool if I could make videos about this? Wouldn't it be cool if I had the ability to make this thing? Well, you can do that now. And it can be completely unrelated to the other thing that you're doing. So if you have some passion project, give you some sci-fi thing, you know what? I would love to tell sci-fi short stories, but I have no idea how to animate. I have no idea how to structure a story. I have no idea how to post this stuff and how to make great looking. You can do that now pretty easily with different AI tools. So if you have those ideas, I urge you to follow those ideas, and you can use AI to do that without using AI to touch your other projects. You can be as creative as you can, whatever you can imagine, and then some. My mind, look, I'm 53 years old. I'll be 54 next year. I've been making content for various types of content and I've been a creator for half of my life. My mind has never been so blown and has never felt so energized when it comes to creativity than it is right now because
Mhm.
I've fully embraced these tools while also remaining human, but I'm using these tools to make other things and to work more efficiently and to
Yeah,
think about things and create things that I could have never, ever created just a year
sure.
ago, even or 2 years ago. So lean
A-
into
As
that.
a I agree 100%. As a side note, with you saying that, with us having the triplets coming down the line here very soon, I wanted to experiment with some coding and learning some kind of vibe coding. And I've designed an
Now you're
app.
speaking my language.
I've designed an
Tell
app
me more.
that this is going to sound so stupid, but I've designed an app. When you have three babies in the house, one of the things that's required when you have a newborn is to monitor their bowel movements. And so I saw a space in the market of there's not really a decent, simple app that just allows you to track, when your baby went to the bathroom. And so I've created this app using Claude code and stuff like that that allows you to do that. And now, is it ever going to be on the App Store? I don't know, but I'm using it, just testing it, and just the ability that we have to do that, right, Nick, is just so cool. That like I, who have no affiliation with anything baby related, other than having a bunch of them, is able to do this now, and I think that's really cool about AI. So let's transition now into the outro, the closing segment of our AI workflow. So for you, Nick, when you wake up in the morning until you go to bed, from like working into personal stuff, what tools are you using? And I'll try to link all of them in our little running spreadsheet that we have.
So I'm using ChatGPT. I'm using the main, ChatGPT tool. Plus, I'm using GPTs that are my own GPTs. That's for just brainstorming, for thinking of better ways to say things, coming up with analogies. Yeah, all kinds of different things, for that. In addition to that, I'm using Opus Clip for clipping content. I'm using, because they use AI to, identify everything and basically for your long form content, it just makes it easy to make vertical content so you can publish it in other places. It's another way to get your face in front of more people. And in addition to that, I also use Claude Code. I use Cursor, which is another coding tool. I use those to make stuff. So I have an app, for YouTubers that I made. I have another app for YouTubers that I made. I have a browser extension that I've made. I have a bunch of personal tools that I've made. But I'm using, a lot of AI for that. I use Adobe Enhance, which is also AI. That's an amazing tool for, if you have any type of voice recordings and you just want to just put processing your voice on easy mode. It's a
I
great way
love
to
that
do it.
one.
It's
I
great.
love
So
that
yeah,
one.
for like YouTube shorts and stuff like that, like it's just great to, just quickly, get good quality audio out of pretty much
Love
any
that one.
source, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, go ahead, D.
I don't know. I was agreeing with you. Adobe
Oh,
Enhance.
okay.
I use it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so that, and then let's see here, what else on the AI side? Yeah, off the top of my head, I would say that that's mostly it on the AI side right now, off the top of my head. Oh yeah, and I'm sorry, and like Kling. Kling is also great, and Runway ML. So I just published a video recently about ways that you can use those types of things for transitions. They have this really cool thing, and Midjourney has this too, where you can do like start and end frame things, and I've just started messing with this. But basically with the start and end frame, you can give it an image for where you want the transition to start or the whatever it is you're going to have the AI do. And then you can put a frame on where you want it to end. It's amazing for making like really interesting transitions also. And how you do it is in your video editing software, you just screen grab the very last frame that you want the transition to start at. And then you screen grab the frame where you want the transition to end. And then you load those as you're starting and end frames. And then AI is going to fill in the gaps based on your prompts, which is really cool. But yeah, those I would say are the primary tools that I'm using right now.
Just before Deeg does his, I've been experimenting with N8N.
Oh yeah, those
It's
two.
kind of like a Zapier competitor where what I've done is I get these orders throughout the day from my Squarespace website. And so an automation that I've made with AI is anytime I get an email from one of these orders, it goes ahead and I was manually inserting the data into my Notion dashboard. But now it filters it for me. The AI sees all the different like name, email, YouTube channel, notes, and it goes, it's amazing, Nick. It just does it for me, right? Like, I know that sounds stupid and simple, but this is why I love AI.
It doesn't.
Is
It
the
doesn't.
ability
Think of
to
the
do
time,
stuff like that.
Yeah, think of the time that saves you. Like I use the same thing
100%.
with,
Yeah.
It's crazy. I use the same thing with a similar service called make.com. And with that, so I have an app, it's called New Creator. It's in the Apple App Store. And there's a news feed in there. And that same news feed is in the creator dashboard and stuff like that. Basically, that feed is for keeping creators up to date with YouTube news. So what I have it doing is I have it monitoring the Creator Insider YouTube channel. And when they publish a new video, then it captures the thumbnail, it captures the title, captures the video ID, logs into my WordPress website. It creates a new post. It loads that thumbnail, loads the title in there. It picks specific tags so that it knows, where to send that content. And then once it's all set up, it saves it as a draft and sends me an email. And then basically I wake up and I'm like, oh, they published a new video because I see it in my email. And then I can, modify the title if I want from my phone and just publish it directly from my phone. So normally, that'd take me, 5 to 10 minutes, a week when they publish content. So now I get to save, 20 to 40 minutes a month on not having to do that, which is great.
D, what are your tools of choice?
.com. I'm a heavy user on Midjourney and in 11 Labs.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yes.
With the Google Nano Banana.
Oh yeah, that too.
That tool has been amazing for me. Like just yesterday, I try to give people real examples, right, Nick? Like I feel like if we talk about this stuff broadly, right, guys, like it sounds a little technical, but if we talk about real examples of what we've done and how we're using it, like the whole thing D's doing, it really is more people can kind of grasp it better. But just yesterday, I was doing the video, the widescreen thumbnail for the podcast episode that goes live today. And the guest sent me an image, a really high quality headshot, but his shoulder was cut off and he was wearing this jacket. And so I uploaded this image to Nano Banana and I just prompted it very, very incoherently and said, hey, I'm putting this on a YouTube thumbnail and I need you to make it to where his shoulder's not cut off and it looks natural. No joke, Nick, within 30 seconds, that guy, it looked like a perfect, the jacket was exact color, it was in the exact background, and D, it was just like, the thought of doing that 8 years ago in Photoshop, of having to use that lasso tool, oh my goodness, the misery. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, D. I'm trying to figure out, is Midjourney worth it as far as I have Nano Banana? What are the benefits of Midjourney as a creator? It depends.
So I use Nano Banana too, and I'm just going to explain my workflow. And again, it all comes down to prompting. Right. If you understand the strengths and the weaknesses of each platform or each website or each AI, rather, you can figure out which one is for it. Let me kind of give you a case how I'm using it. I will create just unbelievably real images in Midjourney, and ChatGPT helped me figure that out. I can create so that one of those TikTok accounts that I was telling you about. The whole thing is you're familiar with the comet that's shooting through the 3-eye atlas that's going through the deep space interstellar 3-eye atlas, right? So I'm making up these crazy stories about how it's like the return of 3-eye atlas. It could possibly be some early beings that visited Earth and it's returning. And I've created this entire world of cave drawings that showcase this thing that cavemen put on the walls and all this. None of it's real, but it looks 100% real. And I tell this story about how, these ancient Sumerian tablets talk about the return of this thing. And so I'll create all this imagery inside of Midjourney. And then I'll take that imagery over to Nano Banana. And I'll say, and I'm just going to use one example here. I'm going to say, here's a museum piece of a 3,000-year-old star tablet. Give me a different angle. And it will create a perfect different angle. That's difficult to do in Midjourney, but Nano Banana will just nail it. I'll say, great, give me a different angle. Now give me another angle. And I can animate those things. So what you have then is you have a completely realistic artifact in a museum, all these different angles. And some of them some of them have video even to where, you can script it in Midjourney even to where you can direct the camera to push in, to pull out, to slowly move around it. And there's people walking by. It's so real looking, but Nano Banana will give you all these different angles that Midjourney will struggle to do. So that's kind of how I'm using the two of them together. Nano Banana is It's free to a degree, but I have one of the
Yeah.
Google plans because of all
I have the Google
storage.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know what it is, but I pay for a thing with Google. So you get a lot of, I don't know, credits with Nana Banana.
Mm.
So, but I pay for Midjourney. I do all the creation there because I can get the images I can create there, and the videos they look completely real, just 100% real. And then I use Nana Banana to give me different angles. Or I can say, I've created this thing, but I don't like this thing here. Remove this thing. And it does
Mhm.
it better than Midjourney will do it. So that's kind of my workflow. It's
That's
crazy.
awesome.
The stuff you can do is insane.
Would you guys be willing to come on in Q1 20 and just do a full-fledged hour and a half conversation about creator workflows with artificial intelligence and bringing, like, you guys doing a little bit of homework and bringing some
Yep.
examples of things that you're doing?
Yes.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
to add to that, one more thing also that I just want to say that might also add value to the listeners right now is ChatGPT also has something called agent mode. And you can do some of this through other services like Innate and things like that. But they have something called agent mode now. And one of the ways that you can use that I'm using it is there's a bunch of, because I talk about YouTube, I teach people how to thrive on YouTube. So it's important for me to stay up to date on like things that are happening just in the communities as well. Like what things are people having trouble with right now? So because of that, I took ChatGPT and turned it into and used the agent mode essentially. And with the agent mode, I have it checking specific subreddits throughout the week.
Oof.
And then every Monday, it gives me a report on the most engaged posts and the top upvoted posts in all of those different communities. And then gives me summaries of what was happening within those posts. So then I can use that without having to go in and go from subreddit to subreddit to subreddit to subreddit. I can use that as a way to just kind of get an idea of like, okay, what are people, engaging with right now around, these topics around YouTube. So if you make any type of content where you need to monitor news sites or you need to do that type of thing on social media sites, ChatGPT agent mode is also a great way to do that kind of stuff to where you don't have to do those types of things manually anymore unless you want to.
You can also run agent mode, and I do this sometimes. You can say, I'm going to call them competitor channels just for the sake of the conversation. Here are these channels that are competitors that are doing very well. And I'm looking for ideas. I'm looking for gaps where they're missing some things here. So I want you to study their titles. I want you to study their packaging, look at the thumbnails, and come back with a full report and tell me what they're doing. Break down the formulas that they're using to package their videos and how they're putting their titles together, and then show me the gaps where I might be able to make videos where they're missing out, where I can make videos to piggyback on what they're doing. And it will come back and give you a full report. It's incredible. It's just incredible.
It is. And I have so many other things that I'm doing and have recently been doing. One of them is for my tutorial channel is I'll do similar to what you're talking about. There are 5 to 7 tutorial channels on YouTube that basically, I've told you guys this before, they've copied the way that I've done my channel. They've just gone quantity. They upload 20 to 50 tutorials a day. I don't want to do that.
Wow.
I'm way older than they are. I have kids. So what I have it doing is I say, hey, here's the 5 channels that are doing really well. Because I feel like my videos are better. I really feel that they are. And so I say, give me the videos over the past week or 30 days that have performed best for them, because that's letting me know what tutorials are the questions are being asked the most. And it provides me a weekly kind of report of, okay, here's the top 10 videos from these competitors, and kind of some of them may cross a line. And so instead of doing these big mass uploads of 25 a day, I can do 5 to 7 tutorials a week, but I know that they're going to have a higher likelihood of succeeding down the line because people are really highly asking those questions. But another thing, Notion has huge AI integration where I can go into Notion AI now, hit the space bar in the Notion and say, here's the YouTube page of this specific tutorial. Give me the best keywords, format them, separate them by commas. Don't go over 500 characters. And it gives me perfectly little keywords that I can put in. And maybe I tweak and change them a little bit, but there's so many things you can do, guys. It's just absolutely astonishing if you're willing to put in the time and the effort. And Nick D, I'd love to talk more about this, and we'll talk about that.
It's a whole show.
Off air for sure.
Yeah.
So guys, we do this every year. This one's going to be uploaded a bit sooner, towards the end of November as opposed to end of December, because I like to do the edit on this one myself. And we're having triplets at the beginning of December. My wife is having them, and we're having them introduced to our family. And so a lot going on. So this show will be released a little earlier than normal. But if you liked this conversation, go check out Nimmin and Nimmin on YouTube. Go see what they have to offer for you as creators, because it lines up with kind of what you're listening to here. And then lastly, if you liked this conversation, subscribe to the podcast. It's absolutely free, guys. Wherever you listen or watch, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, I don't care. Just bookmark it so you get notified. Every Friday, I release new conversations with amazing creators, small, medium size, large size. So definitely do that if you haven't already. Check out all the services that we offer creators. I mentioned them throughout the show, at the top and at the end of the show, but really appreciate you guys listening, and I appreciate Dee and Nick and their time today, and we'll talk to you fellas later. And that's a wrap on this week's episode of the Creators Hub podcast. Man, what a great conversation. We probably could have gone for another couple of hours just talking everything YouTube. It's so great to catch up with those guys, and I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. Lastly, just want to continue to remind you about all of the creator services that we have, the one-on-one coaching, the channel reviews, the mastermind group. If you're looking for a place to be or hang out as a creator, we have something that fits all financial circumstances as well as all needs. So definitely go check that out, as well as our email newsletter and the running spreadsheet of all the links that are mentioned here on the show. And with that said, don't forget to subscribe, whether it be over on YouTube or your podcast player of choice. And we will see you guys next week.